Hello? Are we live? I hope so, because I started speaking. Hello, everyone. My name is Trups LP, and welcome to another episode of our, what is this, political recap.
You're turning it to me, I
Joining
see.
me. Oh, yeah. No. My brain just, like, completely stopped. I was on a roll, and then just stopped. Yeah.
Oops.
Yep, good one. But joining me, as always, now has spoken, the Lord Omegon. He has a hurried voice. Say hello, Omegon.
I just want sympathy. Not okay. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all well. How's Trups?
Trups is here, I guess. Trups is still here. Yeah, that's a good one. That's how I'm doing.
That's so
How about
positive.
you? What did you do hurting your voice? Too much fishing?
Too much fishing, yeah.
Yeah.
The only other productive things I did, I finished work on a guitar, except for soldering, but I'll get that done over the weekend. And I moved our bowl of bat soup to the side here.
You say soldering as opposed to soldering?
Yes, we have an L in there, not two D's.
Oh, I guess, yeah.
Solder, not solder. Because sod means something a bit different over here.
Yeah, well, a sod is like is fake grass.
Sod is also another name for a tosser, twat, idiot, git. It's an insult.
Oh, okay.
And we just call grass. Grass.
Well,
Yeah.
it's fake grass. Sod is essentially
AstroTurf.
like what you
We
put
call
down.
that we call
Yeah, well,
AstroTurf.
no, it's like when you take grass, you cut it up, and then you replant it somewhere else.
Oh. Didn't know that was a thing. Sounds like a lot of
Yes,
effort. Why don't you just plant seeds?
because there are certain places that don't grow grass very well because of their temperate, their climates.
Well, they just give
Or
up.
sometimes dogs piss in that one spot over and over again.
Pour tomato juice over it. That works every time.
Yeah, no. There's a bunch of different reasons, but there are plenty of reasons. Some people just want to look fucking fancy.
Pre-grown grass, we just call that a roll of grass. Yeah. Karma just wrote in the chat pre-grown grass. Yeah,
No.
We do it in
That's
strips and we roll
technically
it up. So we just call it rolled
It's a
grass.
very lucrative business here.
It is actually here as well. I know a few people have done it. We were considering doing it here, and then I had to remind my sister. We have a dog that we just spent £900 repairing. Who, whenever she goes, no matter what she does, she tears up chunks of the garden doing it. So let's not until she's dead, which could be a while because
Dark, but yes.
She's 10. She's got a good 5 years left. She's good, and I'm happy for her to destroy the garden because I don't care about it. As long as she doesn't destroy
Fair
my
enough.
mum. You know, I'm a nice man.
Yeah.
Other than that,
But anyway,
yeah,
we call it sod in Canada. Yeah. I mean, I think it might be just a fuck it. I don't care.
I think it sounds more. To be fair, much like other words, this is it sounds very North American. You know.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds very North American, but
Remember we had this discussion where we went through different foods, and what was the one for coriander you guys have?
Oh, I forget what the fuck. I don't even know what.
Cilantro,
I just call it coriander. Yeah, cilantro. I think.
right? Okay, you have all these other ones, and we have different names. It's just one of those things. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, we call it cilantro.
Yeah. We don't use that word. I don't know why. The bat soup got moved. Yes, it did, Tiana. That's the one. I did that about 10 minutes before the stream started, only to realise the steam coming off it hasn't been cropped correctly, so I will correct it again tomorrow. Or after the stream.
It's okay. He's just. No, I was gonna say now he's just steaming.
Yeah, the steam just goes to a certain point and then just flat lines.
Oh, I just noticed that.
Yeah, that annoys me. I'll fix it.
Oh, okay. Well, now I'm drawing attention to it. Anyway, so we've had some very interesting news in North America, and a lot of it has revolved around Donald Trump. Shocker, because that's all our media is actually good for, is complaining about Donald Trump.
Even when he does good.
Even when he does good. I actually was on my way back home from work today, listening to him give the Congressional Medal of Honor to a former Army Ranger.
Right.
And I guarantee you, they'll find some reason to call him a racist or something.
They'll look for. It was like the what was it? The presidential pardons he gave, and people said, they did.
It's anything he does.
And I mean, I got the political stunt. I agreed, but I'll be honest. Just take the dub on this one. Just take it and just move on. It's just, it's not really a political point. He's winning the argument anyway because you haven't got anything back yet. It's kind of tragic. And I say this as an outsider, Creek. All I see is attacks on him, and it's just not. It's bouncing off him at the moment.
Oh, that's because at this point, right now, the polls have him closing every gap. Now, of course, right now, polls are so hard to actually trust, and everyone is starting to realize that polls are bullshit, which I've been talking about forever, by the way.
You have. Consistently, for that matter.
I hate polls. Polls are dumb, especially because they only sample like at max like 3,000 people, and it's supposed to be indicative of a country of 300 and some million.
You need at least 1%, but with your country, it needs to be 1% of every state, because it's just not possible to get a reasonable. Because the way your states, like you have in bigger cities, you have lots of Democrats, so you have to make sure that 1% encompasses every sort of county. It's just
right, and that's why they have like this demographic breakdown. Anyway, hate it. Not the point. I could go on a fucking tangent about just polling in general. Since it worked so well for them in 2016, 98% win rate.
It did them great. It gave them 4 years to rest.
They weren't resting. There is no rest for the wicked.
That's cringe.
Thank you. But anyway, no, he's closing the gap in a bunch of battleground states. In fact, who was I watching? I think I was watching Tim Pool, and he was talking about how white people are leaving Donald Trump, but Donald Trump is actually gaining Hispanic and black voters.
Sounds like a positive.
Weird. Did you see the fucking white supremacist dude endorsing Joe Biden?
Yes, I did. I have no idea. But I would say the Hispanic vote that he's earning. I mean, there's a large community of Hispanic people in like Florida. I'm not surprised he earned their vote because a lot of them are legal, and they're not overly fond of illegal. We discussed this. You yourself being one of those folks.
Yes. Well, you see, that's majorly part of it. But the most Hispanics that are going towards Trump are actually Cubans and Venezuelans.
Really?
For obvious reasons. They have seen what socialism and communism does to their countries, and they hate it. There was a speaker at the RNC who was a Cuban immigrant himself, and he was talking about how he listens to Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders. And the media talk about how all these socialist policies should be in place. And he says, it doesn't scare me. It strikes me as familiar, which I think is a much more damning statement than anything else.
Yes.
But anyway, so like all of the polls basically have to at least admit that Trump is within the margin of error, and therefore Joe Biden is as well. But they will never say that. If the polls see Joe Biden leading, they report Joe Biden as ahead. If they show Trump in the lead, then they say, "Oh well, it's in the margin of error." And I'm like, "Well, that's not how this works." But it is. It is apparently to them. So what are you gonna do?
Nothing.
Well, it depends on who you are, I guess. But that's just in general. That's how Trump is being currently viewed. But there are a bunch of other nuanced little things that we could get into. But I guess I want to first ask: did anything interesting happen in the UK?
So there've been a few things. The EU have threatened to ban UK food exports to the EU. Because Boris wants to override parts of the divorce deal agreement, the withdrawal agreement, essentially. Now, and the EU have given us a month to withdraw plans. But many politicians, past, present, lords, so fakes, have all said that this this is a besmirchment of our good name. Because we're tearing up something we've already agreed to, and we should always stick to what we agree to. And I think it sounds to me less like Boris is trying to betray the agreement, and more like he's trying to protect us for no deal. In the sense that this bill is meant to be the internal market bill, and that's supposed to protect the four nations, obviously, and crown dependencies. So the intention is to protect it. Like the EU has the same thing. It has the single market. We want to create something called the internal market to protect the United Kingdom. And so I get that the impression is, I think they're going for no deal. And they're trying to push for it now because they know it's going to happen. And that would explain why we just agreed a monstrous deal with Japan, which is a massive deal. We knew the deal was coming. But we've got it, and we've got a better deal than the EU got. Which says a lot more about us. Creaking bones in the background. It's my chair. And I do apologise to anyone who is bothered by that. Although the only person I know that would be is left to go play D&D. So, there are possibilities that MPs, Tories, Labour and others may well rebel against this to give Parliament a veto over this bill. However, I don't know. The government's not changing course. That much we know. The Duchy of Lancaster, the SNEC, Michael Gove has already said that the government is not going to change. But I don't know. I don't believe, unlike others, that this is a huge act of self-harm. I do think he is trying to get us ready for no deal, and he's already secured a deal anyway. Other deals can be agreed. The only issue is we need to keep the current deals in place until they are replaced by something else or something better. And we haven't got a deal with you yet.
That and the fact that I love how the EU is still trying to put its grimy little fingers inside your country.
Yeah.
As if they have anything to say about it. Like, first of all, I want to point out that isn't the UK one of the biggest food export countries in Europe?
We do export quite a lot, yes. We do import quite a lot as well, but we do it all through the EU for that matter. Our beef is quite highly sought after. Yes, I will talk about Gina Miller soon, Serene.
You guys do a lot of, like, cows, so.
Yeah. Our deal with Japan, it's not worth a huge amount, but it's worth, it will increase commerce by about £15 billion, which is still a lot of money, you know? I'm okay with that. Oh, hang on.
Okay.
I chose the wrong moment to bite a lozenge. Barnier has said that there are uncertainties about sanitary regimes, and that we need to and that more clarity is needed for the EU to do an assessment for the third country listing of the United Kingdom. This is what allows export of agricultural goods. That's interesting to me. But moving to continue with Brexit. So, Gina Miller said that the 2017 ruling said that the government is wrong to use parliamentary sovereignty as a legal defence for attempting to override the EU withdrawal agreement. And that the two issues were intellectually and legally distinct. She lost that. Just saying. UK is the largest exporter of roast beef. Yes, mate. Our cows are best cows. By the way, the Internal Markets Bill isn't going to be debated until later this month anyway. So, I'll be honest, they're cutting this one fine. Because negotiations have to conclude within about 6 weeks. Well, they lose about 2 to 3 weeks, so it does, to me, sound more like no deal at this point. And so I'm not entirely sure what the plan is. Well, with that anyway. As far as that goes, to be honest, Brexit's kind of stuck because, yeah, there's still Brexit deal arguments. I could pull up something quickly. Excuse me.
You're excused.
No, it's just the party has to unite, not return to miserable squabbling over Europe. Oh, okay. A Tory proposed an amendment to the bill that would affect trade, but they got less than 5 weeks, sorry, to get this done. I think he wants to walk away. Oh, you're referring to some burning Brits. Nice. I like that. Very clever. Hello, Saki. That's the best thing. Yeah. There's not much else to add to that, to be honest, because nothing's happening on Brexit. There are other things happening in the UK, but I don't know. Trump's more interesting, isn't he?
I usually think so, but that's not for any other reason except for the fact that they are making him more interesting.
Every single day.
Every fucking day. Yeah, and honestly, I would rather him not be so interesting to them because there's other more important shit to talk about. At least, I would have thought.
Well, if you want, I'll talk about coronavirus quickly, and that can lead into one thing with Trump.
Okay.
Okay, so, close these sources. Brexit. That's no confidence. Okay, England and Wales have introduced a contact tracing app. This will, along with the intention of increasing, hello Mrs. Saki and Serene, increasing the testing number by hundreds of thousands. They want to get to 1 million by the end of, I don't know, next month or something. The app will then, let you know if you're, you need to self-isolate or something. Now, the problem is the app has been a bit of a botch. Scotland's gotten theirs in place. But there are new COVID restrictions coming into the country, but not across the entire country. Some do affect the entire country, but some no. So there's like a rule of 6. No gatherings of more than 6, unless, like, I live with my sisters. 2 of my sisters live with me and their 3 daughters. That's 6. We're fine. But there's an exception if people come to see you. You do get a little buffer on that. Shop numbers go down again, I think. Some places are under lockdown because the infection rate blew up, even though the death rate did not. Yeah. It's getting a bit messier. And I'm not surprised. There is belief that because of this, furlough will need to be extended to next year. Which I'm not in favour of at all, because it's just more borrowing. Oh dear, I can just hear austerity in the distance.
Isn't your budget meeting or your budget discussions coming up soon? Because I know
the autumn statement comes up soon, yeah. And there's no way, there is no way Rishi Sunak does not stand up and say, I'm not gonna tax anyone with money. He's gonna tax people. He's gonna have to. And the worst part is, damn well, even if things got better, he'd keep that tax there. Oh, it's so bad.
Oh, of course.
I go feel slightly sorry for the Conservatives in one respect, because when they came in, they had to introduce austerity. Some will say, no, he didn't. Yes, they did. I lived through this. Many of you did. I remember this. Nobody could think of a solution that wasn't austerity. It had to happen. And then, things start to improve, apparently, although borrowing does go up. Things start to improve economically, and then coronavirus hits. Oh, dear Lord. Things aren't so good anymore. We're back to square minus 1,000. It's just a mess. And so extending furlough, I'm not in favour of. I think it depends on where you're living as well. If you're in one of the areas that's more densely hit, of course, there's going to be an issue, and one must then seek to help if you can. But it shouldn't be a countrywide thing, and I certainly don't agree with the locking this country down again, which is believed to be happening possibly at Christmas again. Not Christmas again, but around winter. Well, our winter comes a bit late, but you know what I mean. Like, locking the country down for a second time would be a bad idea. It would be a bad idea
for most countries, I think, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's interesting because, for the most part, like our media has talked about how our case numbers has continued to go up, and our death numbers is like a slow creep. I think we have like 5 million confirmed cases and then 190,000 dead, which is still awful.
Of course.
But at least comparatively, like, hey, that's 498,000 that are alive that have it. So that's pretty damn good. Or no,
Of course, they want
I'm
to
not done.
prevent any
That number
deaths,
is somewhere.
and I get it, but it's just don't lock the country down for God's sake. Don't. We need to be able to work. Need to be able to function, and people need to be able to work on the vaccine as well.
That number. That number. I couldn't say it, but that's the number I'm thinking.
4.8 million.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, so coronavirus has cropped up. Lockdowns in some places. Matt Hancock, the health secretary, is getting utterly flayed because he didn't give certain information to Parliament. And because, obviously, him being health secretary and this all being a health issue, he is the fall guy. And I think the only reason he's still in a job is because until this issue is dealt with, they can continue to put the blame on him, ruin his political career, because it will, and send him to the back benches where he'll eke out an existence doing nothing. Because no one will want to work with him, ever.
Mm-hmm.
I just... yeah, so that's pretty much it. There are a bunch of MPs who are vehemently against COVID restrictions. MPs are questioning the why children aren't exempt from the rule of six. And also we have COVID marshals being introduced, who have no...
Oh, no.
They're basically Karens. They have no official powers.
Yeah.
They can't arrest you. They can't touch you. They can't do anything. They're just busybodies.
Yeah.
And they're not even paid. They're volunteers.
In a way.
Like, oh my god, you've just given every Karen in this country a free ride to complain at someone. That's just brilliant. What are you going to do? Give them a citation?
At least it'll keep them from fucking pissing off anybody else.
True.
I don't know if it's a good trade-off, but it's something.
It's certainly something. So, with that in mind, how has your president handled COVID-19 recently?
I mean, recently.
Let's go a little bit earlier.
I think it's going all right. The more interesting thing was that apparently earlier on in the year when we were just getting information out, there was apparently an interview that was done where Trump admitted to quote unquote playing down the coronavirus, and that he is on tape saying that he played it down. However, that quote ends with him saying, "Because I didn't want to incite a panic."
Mm-hmm. Before you continue, can I just address someone in the chat? So, Faye, a couple of days ago, I received a parcel. Somebody very kindly off Amazon sent me training treats for a puppy. And that would be Faye in the chat. Thank you very much for doing that. My sister already has them and is now attempting to train Waffle. That was very generous of you. Thank you. Carry on.
I love that the dog's name is Waffle.
It's a good name, isn't it? I wanted Davy Boy Smith,
Yeah,
but
it is.
he's not my dog, so...
But anyway, so he said he didn't want to incite a panic, and I have to kind of agree. There would have been a major run on the banks if imagine if the contrary happened. Oh no, this is, thank you, Pincolo, the driving ape, for the $2 Canadian donation. You think this is bad? Look up Trudeau. Trudeau is a mess.
Is he?
Oh my god. I think he's in his third or fourth ethics violation right now for misuse of money. And
Oh, no.
basically inflating his family's wallets. Oh my god.
Oh,
it's bad.
no. How's he still in office?
Because I don't know. I don't know. But the... imagine if it had gone the other way in terms of COVID. Imagine if Trump had come out and said, "This is the worst thing ever. It's coming. It's going to kill your grandma. It's going to kill your neighbor. It's going to kill your mom. This is terrible, and we have no way. We have no way to currently handle this."
Right.
I mean, theoretically that could have been true. And that would have probably caused a much worse recession, a much worse reaction, and probably more would have died for different reasons. Um, so I know that they're all bringing it up, and the media is hounding him. And Kayleigh McEnany, which, by the way, I had said her name wrong like a bunch. I kept saying McKinney.
Oh, did you?
Apparently, it's McEnany. Yeah.
Oops.
Apparently, it's McEnany. Sorry, Kayleigh. I should have kind of guessed with the name like Kayleigh that it was gonna be more the Irish way to say it.
F for Kayleigh.
But yeah. But can you just imagine if they had basically done that? I mean, if you're gonna go down the route of we should have done things like how China did, then actually Trump played it off exactly like how China did. And I was talking to my fiance yesterday, and apparently she and her friends were curious and looked up the numbers for COVID, and China is still at 84K. And I think they're lying pieces of shit.
Yeah, they're lying.
Well, do you remember that all the news that was coming out about how they were their crematoriums were going off constantly, and a bunch of urns were being shipped in and moved, but their numbers weren't changing. Yeah, and also we have had videos. I have a video somewhere on my channel of literally people walking down a street in Wuhan in like full hazmat and then machine guns. Because,
China lied and people died.
COVID hit squad.
That too. But mostly China lied and people died.
Yeah, no, yeah. China lied, people died. That was pretty much how it all ended up. But in terms of, did he do anything about it? Sure, he closed borders. I mean, Italy closed its borders hard down when they got hit. And we had already started the process of closing borders. Which, by the way, at the time was regarded as racist.
Of course, because it is totally.
Yep. Completely. We share our COVID with the world, like China. Sorry, I had to sip in my espresso. The fact that we have this much, complaining going on, but I can't believe you. What is it? 6-7 months ago said that it wasn't gonna be a big deal, and in my brain all I can think of is, wait, hold on, didn't everyone say that? I seem to remember a White House press briefing where the press secretary brought out a binder and read off the headlines of all the different news fucking sites and news agencies saying that it's no worse than the flu, it's nothing, there's no big deal, all this shit. I seem to remember that very clearly. I'm pretty sure it's on the White House press record. And I guarantee you, if you look through conservative media, they'll talk about it too. Because you can't just pretend this didn't happen. The fact that we, looking at it from hindsight, are expecting the people in our past to know what we know now is the same kind of mentality that an older person will look at a child and go, what do you mean you don't know, what do you mean you don't know why you shouldn't shove a fork in an electrical socket? Isn't it obvious? No, you didn't tell them why yet. They don't know yet. You have to explain that to them. They don't have information by osmosis.
Sounds like they need to get good.
But the media thinks it's kind of the opposite in the sense where, they can say some things and then apparently they can take it back and nobody will remember that. They call them, I guess, the uninformed populace or the uninformed voter are the ones that basically will listen to one or two news sites on the same side and they'll just listen and believe everything that is said.
Yeah.
That's more or less the uninformed voter, and they do believe this shit. a lot of the protesters and the rioters are kind of along those lines, because you can tell just by how they liken themselves to the racial ideology that basically is um, pervasive through the SJW and Black Lives Matter movements.
Mm-hmm.
You have essentially this whole idea that I was watching a video from Memology 101, which is like a great channel. It does like 5-minute videos about like what the fuck's going on, and he puts some snide commentary in the form of text boxes. It's very consumable content. But there was some lady who was saying like America was built on this country was built on the backs of colored people, and I was like, and white people too, built on the backs of a lot of people. But I imagine that she means is slave labor.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
how much of Oregon was built with black labor? I honestly didn't know, but I can't imagine it's too much. A lot of the South, sure, but I don't think you can really say that for the most part of every place in this country. I don't think Alaska was built much on the backs of black people.
I'm afraid
Now
that
that
may
is kind of
history, so I
me,
can't comment on it.
that is me kind of taking liberties with what she said. She said colored people. Um, so I guess you could say Inuits or First Nations people also,
Right.
but some of them, well, in the case of Texas and most of the Southwest, uh, we got that because the Mexican president at the time sold it to us. So that's a fun thing. Um, no, but I take a lot of issue with basically the people who will listen to one source and never question it. Like even the people who are in the chat right now, you're hearing me talk. Don't just listen to me. Go find out for yourself. I encourage you to. I encourage everybody to become educated in all forms so that you can see what I mean when I say CNN is stupid and that Fox is less stupid than they used to be. Um, but I kind of tangentially went off when it came to COVID, because COVID has basically just been a absolute clusterfuck of bad information being passed around by like certain news agencies.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's cursory related, but I'm not necessarily sure that it wasn't, a tangent anyway. So, if you want, I can go into the little thing about Trump apparently calling our fallen soldiers losers and suckers.
Yes, please do, because I don't actually have any idea what
Okay.
that's about.
Okay. So allegedly, from an unnamed source, The Atlantic posted that Donald Trump called our fallen soldiers suckers and our military veterans losers.
Right.
And there is a modicum of truth. He called John McCain a loser.
Oh,
He
yeah,
called him a loser.
because he got
called
caught,
him a
didn't he?
loser because he lost. Yes. Yeah, because one, he got caught, and two, he lost the election. So, I mean, technically, he's not wrong. But he said it to John McCain, not anybody else.
Mm.
And it's even funnier because out of all the people that you would try to attack Trump on, his base being that the people who stand by the troops and the police and law and order as pretty consistent, right?
Yeah, of course.
Do you think they're going to believe you? Unnamed source from the Atlantic? Even John Bolton, who hates Trump, who released a book about why he hates Trump and all the dumb shit Trump did, said no, that never happened.
Oh dear. Sounds like a libel case then.
It can be, yes. But it's very hard to do that when it's an unnamed source. You can't necessarily go after them. You would have to go after the
Ah,
publisher, and then the publisher would say, "We just got bad information. We were doing our job correctly.
no,
We
you
just,
weren't.
we didn't vet our sources." And I'm like, I feel like you should be held accountable for that too.
You should always vet your sources. And if he does decide to do this to you, you brought it on yourselves, and you deserve pain.
I just hate people who will try to get away with that kind of bullshit.
I agree. I don't care for it.
Because
It's dishonest.
yeah, I mean, let's just pretend to treat everybody, with at least a bit of. Let's just assume for a little bit. This is hard for everybody because we're so fucking cynical. But sometimes you can just trust that people have your best interest in heart, right?
Of
Sometimes you
course.
can trust that. That's not Trump for the media. No matter what Trump does is bad. Until Joe Biden starts to do it. Then Joe Biden will then criticize Trump that he doesn't do it. Citing the whole last week's issue of Joe Biden calling Trump not tough on these riots.
Mm-hmm.
That legitimately happened. And I'm disturbed. I'm confused. I don't understand, but yes. It's very weird looking at right now what's going on in the Trump Biden sphere in terms of how their politics are going back and forth, because you have Trump basically coming out as the law and order president. He's trying to basically say that he is that law and order that will fix all these places. We got to move in the National Guard. He's offered all this help to all these locations where protests have gone on crazy. He's deputized Oregon State troopers as being able to basically bring felony charges.
Right.
I think he's done the same in New York as well for the Rochester riots,
How's
which
that
are,
going?
by the way, the Rochester riots are fucking hilarious. They're really upset about a guy who was doped up on PCP who died in police captivity a day after he was arrested.
Oh, Arcata, hope you're well, mate.
Architect, hello. But yeah, apparently, PCP is what we want to go down fighting for, I suppose. I don't know why, but you have a bunch of issues right now that Biden is trying to shift to make one of his platforms, right?
Right.
Which honestly, not a bad political strategy. Um, if you consider the fact that, I mean, you've got Trump and he says, "I like this." People are like, "Yay!" It would only make logical sense that then the other person would go, "I also think this," so that they also would get a yay.
Of course.
The problem is when you've been like, "I'm against this," until now. Can I get a yay? And then you get one yay from the back of the room, and everyone else is like, "Ooh, you suck." And that's honestly what's going on, because you have Biden basically going into Pennsylvania saying, "Okay, we're not gonna get rid of all the fracking, sir, but you were literally on record saying that you were going to get rid of fracking." I know what I said. Are you sure?
Actually, yeah, he did, didn't he? He did. That was
no. This is literally happening. I'm not just bullshitting.
No, I
all the things I'm
remember.
saying are true.
I remember that one as well because it cracked. I forgot to put that in the sources. That one cracked me up. You turned before he's even in office.
Oh yeah, and it's so difficult to try and like keep it to one topic when discussing truly the things between Biden and Trump, because there are so many ways that you can go out of it, and like there's just so many more pile-on, more and more information I can just add on top of it. Eventually, it just becomes so much that you're like, ugh. But the media is literally trying to carry water for the Democrats as hard as they fucking can. And you have places like is it fucking Baltimore that has a black female who is trying to run for that congressional district, and she's basically going around saying Democrats have failed this city. They've been in power for, X amount of time, and they haven't changed a damn thing. I'm going around, I'm going to talk to people, and I'm going to see if they understand this information. She went around, she did a campaign video, and a lot of them had never even spoken to a Republican before. Well, I mean, I guess there's a reason for that, but I guess you can question why Republicans aren't trying to do outreach in those places, especially because they're doing so fucking poorly. I guess they believe the effort is hopeless, but I like that a person from Baltimore basically was like, "Hang on, this is dumb."
Yeah.
And then was like, "Hang on, let me go talk to my neighbors. Hey, did you know this is dumb?" And they go, "You got a point. That's a good one. And a lot of people, if they're the angry type, they're just gonna plug their ears, go na 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 na, and they don't want to listen. And then you present the other ones with like facts, and they go, "Oh, hold on a second, you're right." And so now you have a situation where Trump, in the last, I don't know, 4-5 months, has been doing his darndest to keep up with COVID, fend off brutal attacks by the media, infringing on his character at every turn, as they have been trying to basically degrade him over the past 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
All while trying to get the economy back going up and trying to hold down a lot of these fucking cities from going absolutely fucking batshit. At the same time, he is able to negotiate a deal with Israel and the United Arab Emirates. And apparently there was another one in like it was some Eastern European country. It had something to do with oh god, what was the place that Russia fucking annexed?
Oh Jesus, was
Crimea.
it Georgia or Jordan or something?
No. It might.
It was. Oh god, and it's part of the. It was
something with a T.
It's near Ukraine, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something that begins with a C. But anyway, they negotiated a deal out there
Crimea.
as well.
Crimea.
What is it?
Crimea.
Is it Crimea? Okay.
Yeah, I knew it was that as well.
But you have all these things, and then some Norwegian decides to raise his hand and go, "Hey, you know what? I think we should give that man a Nobel Peace Prize."
To be fair, under this what do you call it? This presidentship administration. Thank you. This is a huge deal. People then pounced on this when it was on Twitter and said, but he can't get his own fucking house in order. I know. You're right. But he still did that. Something which no one else has been able to do. That's a huge
Kosovo!
deal.
That was the fucking place I was thinking.
Oh, I was thinking of Crimea.
Thank you, York Maritime. It's Crimea too, but he actually signed an agreement with Serbia and Kosovo. Thank you, Yorkshire Tom. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're
That was
thinking
the one I was
right, the other agreement. Sorry. Yeah, the point is, while there is domestic issues, which I'll be honest, under his administration they are a fail. But how the fuck would he? How the fuck is he meant to handle it in the first place? I don't know. Without using force against these people and causing during election season, not the wisest idea. He can't possibly win. They have to wear themselves out like every other bloody child. I do think because of the Middle East peace related negotiations between Israel and United Arab Emirates, that is worthy of a nomination. I don't think he'll get it because they wouldn't want to be seen giving one to Trump. Others will be like, you can have mine back. You know, the virtue signalers and all that. But this is a big deal. And also, wouldn't it make it the second... Didn't Obama get nominated for one, and he hadn't even done anything when he got nominated?
Oh yeah, he got a Nobel Peace Prize for being black and president. That was basically it. By the way, I quickly Googled Israel news. Bahrain and Israel have announced a peace deal as well today.
Bahrain are fairly neutral anyway, but that's still a big deal.
Yeah,
So whether you like it or not,
like, okay, we are just now adding on more and more.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me see here. BBC News has it, and it says Israel and the Gulf state of Bahrain have reached a landmark deal to fully normalize their relations. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced the second Arab country to make peace with Israel in 30 days. He tweeted, "For decades, most Arab states have boycotted Israel, insisting they would only establish ties after the Palestinian dispute was settled." Yes, Bahrain is only the fourth Arab country in the Middle East after the UAE, Egypt, and Jordan to recognize Israel since its founding in 1948.
It's a big deal, and I hope it leads to more. I do think the nomination, if you're going to go by on this, yes, he's worthy of it. I don't think he'll get it, though, sadly. But I'd love it if he did, because it would cause a lot of angry people, and I'd like to see the salt. I haven't seen a good salt mine since the 2016 election, to be honest. Have you?
Oh God, you haven't seen enough salt. I haven't seen anything but salt. I've been looking at the salt flats in the last 4 years.
I mean, salt flats are fine. I mean, a salt mine. I want to see a mass hysteria.
You should live here, my dude. It is. The mass hysteria exists.
Oh, the problem there is it's not salt, it's anger. I want to see salt. I want to see losers' faces, not people just blowing shit up. I need to see something. We haven't, you know what I mean? Because the election, that result was absolutely like Brexit. It was it hit people so hard. But this is protests before the next election. It's not salty at all. It's burning shit down because they think... And it's all white middle-class people burning their own stuff or burning stuff for the poor people who also happen to be black.
Yeah, but, like, don't you understand? Poor kids are just as smart as white kids.
Another parallel to Hitler.
Biden.
Didn't know that Hitler got a Nobel or a nomination for one. Didn't know that.
Really?
No, I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff.
No, I actually never knew that. But interesting. No, the salt over here sucks, and you can see it at least in the Democrats, like the establishment Democrats. Their salt is just overflowing. It is a glorious avalanche of the white powdery shit, not angel dust like Ascobal in the chat mentioned, or snow like the people in Canada see, but rather salt in the form of.
Go on. I have a quote for you from the Norwegian member of the conservative-leaning party, the guy who nominated him. He even says he's not a Trump supporter. The committee should look at the facts and judge him on the facts, not on the way he behaves sometimes.
I mean, yeah, that's what most Trump supporters say all the time.
That's true. He's not a Trump supporter, but because he said that, he's a Trump supporter. You're right.
Well, I mean, that's what they would say.
Yeah, it's
But
true. It's true. Yeah.
but the fact of the matter is, you can't win. And this is what I mean when I say the salt is overflowing. Like, the fact that somebody can come out and say, hey, you know what? He did some good things, right? Right? Can we all agree that he did some good things? The left goes, no! No, you can't. He is a monster. He is literally worse than Hitler.
He wins the next
kicks
election. He's
puppies
going to
and
burn
pushes grandma down the stairs.
the country won't survive if he wins another term. I believe was what others had said. Which is why
Well, you know,
I need
what's
to,
really
he needs
funny
to,
about
he
that?
needs to win it because I need to see that the fallout. Because then all they've got is right. We'll just prepare for 4 years from now when we'll win anyway.
You know what's funny about that? They did some war games. Thank you. They did some war games where they were basically pretending to do the election, and in a landslide victory for Joe Biden, that was the only situation in which the U.S. did not descend into street violence. Was a landslide for Biden.
He's not getting a
Which
landslide.
makes you... No, he's not. But if it was a narrow win for Trump, if it was a narrow win for Biden, street violence. If it was a landslide for Trump, street violence. And actually some thoughts of secession. So let's think about this one critically for a hot second. Let's take the middle ones out, the narrow wins, right? Landslide for Biden, no street violence. Landslide for Trump, street violence. Which side is the sore loser?
I'm not sure.
Like, if we really wanted to put our brains, our heads together on this one, sounds like the left is threatening violence unless Joe Biden wins considerably. Which is pretty ballsy.
It is. It seems a bit biased.
Now, I have to say though, whereas a lot of the talks of civil war have gone on in this country, and that conversation has happened quite a bit in the last 2 or 3 months, where you have people who accept that right-wingers are very well equipped to handle situations that would require them to defend their life, liberty, happiness, their property, their families, etc. They're very well equipped to do so. They are not as willing to bring the fight. You understand?
Yeah.
So whereas Antifa will go into the yes, the psychomagus. The left has already murdered a supposed Trump supporter. Yes, the man was a Trump supporter in Patriot Prayer, and the left literally murdered him. The warrant actually explains how the man who then got into a shootout with the police had stalked these two men with his hand on his gun for several blocks. No, that was definitely a planned and executed murder. I will go out and say that is exactly what that was. But so you have the left who is willing to do shit like that, right? The right does not want to. The right is very well willing to let bygones be bygones. You go your way, I'll go my way. We never have to see each other again, and we can both live happily. They won't do that on the left. They are necessarily aggressive in their push for quote-unquote social change.
Right.
So if in the case of, a street violence situation, I wonder if, because that's going to be the left in the street causing violence, if you would actually see the right show up. You might see some of them show up, Proud Boys, and some of those guys. They might show up, but I mean like the people. I'm talking about literally the people. These groups like Proud Boys and Patriot Prayer are representative of the people, but they're not all of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wonder what it would take to motivate the people to actually stand up for themselves in the face of what is domestic terrorism. And the reason I say it's domestic terrorism is they are literally using violence to warn you that if our candidate does not win, we will burn shit in the street and hurt people.
It's very progressive.
Yes, it is. So progressive that I feel like we're going back in time.
Yes. Does feel a bit, doesn't it? It's kind of tragic.
Well, it's really funny. I've seen a bunch of pictures because I did some looking up when a lot of these riots started. I did some looking up on old pictures of early protests and rallies before the Batista regime was basically ousted by the Castro regime in Cuba. And my God, the similarities are uncanny and kind of creepy.
Really?
It's terribly concerning. Also, LM, the right can loot the gun stores. The right owns the gun stores. They don't have to loot them.
At least you're honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, oh no, the right's gonna go loot Palmetto State Armory. Why? They all have membership cards. They can just go. They can just go there. But I think that while I agree, Patriarch, I don't think we're willing to go out and actually get involved. I think we know too well that violence begets violence, and we won't do it. I think, because if you imagine, the right invariably has more principles than the American left. The American right has invariably more principles than the American left. The American right, at the very least, is typically conservative in the sense that they believe in the preservation of the nuclear family. They believe in at least some form of religious values, typically. And these two things already, and they believe in constitutional rights, obviously. These things combined at the very core, basically create a ethical and a moral opposition to the idea that they would go out and inflict violence as a means to an end. Whether that be because they respect the law, or whether or not it says in their religion that doing this is wrong and you risk eternal damnation. Now, the left doesn't care. The left, for the most part, is agnostic or atheist or some form of pagan without actually understanding their roots of their paganism. Which is the shit that pisses me off quite a bit. They don't have these moral or ethical codes. In fact, their moral and ethical codes say that violence is totally a viable option. Just look at their manifestos, right? If the progressive left, if their books that they follow are anything to go on, you have Anarchist Cookbook and you have the Communist Manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
These things encourage violence. So of course they would find it as a normal and ethical thing to do. They think they're fighting against a big baddie in a fucking raid. Sorry, MMO reference, but they think they're the raid boss. Right? And I don't think they fully understand that what they're getting into is it's a lot more dangerous than they, I think, are willing to go. Not just for their own personal safety, but what it means for any kind of future of this country. Because God forbid, right? God forbid we have to go down the route of a police state.
Don't want
Like,
that.
let's say
Not
the
during
right,
election
the
season.
right. Well, I have to bring it up because God forbid, right? Trump is saying he's the law and order candidate, right? And he's saying we'll bring the National Guard in, and we'll let the states, handle their National Guard and do what they please. God forbid the left pushes it so far that the only reasonable response is to do a full crackdown. Then what? Because now you have people protesting, well, this military occupation is wrong. By our constitution, it's wrong. Yes, but now they're here. Too late.
Right.
What do you do? Well, okay, now are we all on the same side again? Are we now fighting against an actual government? But the government was literally voted in because somebody made the issue. Yeah, martial law, essentially. Because we saw it a little bit in the early stages of the Minnesota protests when I don't know if you saw it, but it was a video of a guy who was on his balcony and the National Guard were walking down the street and they said, get inside your house, and the guy was still on his porch and they lobbed a tear gas canister at him and it went into their house. It was pretty brutal. And that was one of the bad optics videos.
Huh.
So God forbid that would then happen. Then what? Well, now we are in a different space completely, and we need to see how the dominoes fall after that.
Thank you, Tiana Chittister, for the $3 donation. That's very kind of you.
And the only reason that I feel like I have to go into that, I know it's an election year, we're 2 months out from the election, and it's not necessarily the best optics thing to talk about, but I need to bring it up because I am more center-right. I don't necessarily identify as libertarian, but I fall on both sides of the aisle on certain issues, and I fall more to the right. But I have to worry about such things because that is what our Second Amendment is about. It's about keeping and bearing arms, and also the spirit of the idea is to rebel against a tyrannical, order.
Mm-hmm.
Also, not sure if this will be covered, but would love to hear your thoughts about Trump's support by the troops. Trump's support by the troops or Trump's support of the troops? Because I think the troops... Well, okay. Quickly. A lot of Pentagon fucking generals don't like him. A lot of the high brass don't like him. But I think that Trump being the biggest anti-war president we've ever had in this country, reducing Afghanistan numbers, the occupying forces, I think, to about 4,000 is great. So, yeah, generals are coming out, but they're not the ones who have fought in a war in the longest time. The problem is with our wars is that those generals are essentially politicians. They send other people to die just the same. When you start hearing them give your typical enlisted sailor, the enlisted I don't have an issue with. It's the people who went to an officer's school, rose up the ranks, and then basically kind of like secured their position with a nice federal pension behind a desk.
Yeah.
Who pretend to understand the work of an E2 enlisted when he's being deployed 10 months out of the year on a fucking boat in the middle of the goddamn Gulf, the Gulf Sea, and no one gives a fuck. And he hasn't seen his family in a while, and he's got a 2-year-old son who only ever sees them 2 times out of the year. Come on. The enlisted love him because Trump actually gives a fuck about where our troops are being deployed and like who's actually on the ground fighting, putting bullets into into children's hands and basically marching them off to war.
Mm-hmm. Do you think with the issues in the Middle East becoming less of an issue, that would also benefit the military and they will also support him because he's not sending them over there as much to like Israel and other nations? That's fantastic then, really, isn't it?
I'm an officer and you best believe I support our president. Well, I'm glad and I hope that other officers like you exist. Because I deal with a lot of Air Force guys, and they keep their mouth shut a lot of the time. But no, as long as there are more officers like you out there, I have a little bit more confidence in it. But the military in our country has a very, very strong sentiment of we don't care what color you are, you're green. We're all green here. Basically, the idea is we're all military brothers in arms. So a lot of the racial conflict that's going in Air Force, a lot of the racial issues they don't personally see as much, because they don't care. They trust the guy next to them. Doesn't matter. But yeah, I've gone on a little bit longer than I expected because
that's all right.
About some military
there is a super chat there. I think you should read.
Oh yes, Duck Dog from my brothers that made the final alarm, 9/11/2001. Yep. All this information is coming out to us, and we're having this discussion on the 19-year anniversary of one of the worst terrorist attacks in the history of the United States, and I made a video on it last year. I don't necessarily feel as if I have to write it again, or do it all over again.
Mm-hmm.
But take if you're an American in the chat, just take a second to at least acknowledge that a bunch of very valiant men and women, firefighters, EMTs, and police officers ran into 2 burning buildings with the only the slightest hope of saving somebody on the 105th floor. A lot of them died, and our hearts and thoughts and prayers, as Mimi as it is, will go out to those and their families. Okay, now with that out of the way, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Meg, do you have anything to shill?
No.
Cool, me either. All right, well. Yes, many of them volunteers. So I want to thank you guys all for joining us this evening, and I hope you guys have a good night. Say good night, Meg.
Good night, Meg.
Good night, Meg.